Welcome to the Vaughan Advice Givers podcast. I interview Vaughan business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. Robert Caruso here, and my goal is to bring Vaughan residents the best advice from our community's brightest minds. This podcast is brought to you by the value-driven approach to sell real estate, a practical guide to protect yourself from real estate greed and bank an extra $30,000 in profit by thinking like the great Warren Buffett. For a free copy of this book, visit www.getafreebookforcharity.com. That's getafreebook4charity.com. Episode number 14 is with Scott Newman from LegalShield. LegalShield gives you access to real lawyers to discuss the many different types of legal issues that come up on a regular basis. Examples of when you'd be calling them are for advice on a speeding ticket, buying a car, or have them review a legal contract so you have proper legal guidance and advice. LegalShield is affiliated with actual lawyers, so when you call them, you're not calling some sort of call center where somebody is following a script. ID Shield is another service they offer that includes identity protection as well. Enjoy the interview. Welcome everyone to another episode of Vaughan Advice Givers. This is Robert Caruso. I'm sitting here with Scott Newman from LegalShield. Scott, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Robert?
Good. So I'm glad you can make it. So you're with the company called LegalShield. Maybe before we get into that, maybe you can give us a little bit of background about yourself, maybe what you did prior and how you got into what you're doing now.
For sure. So I've been doing this for over 10 years, just being an entrepreneur, mainly in sales and marketing. Had a family history in like the flooring industry, and I ended up creating my own service business, specializing in the home contracting and flooring and so forth. So I've been doing like a lot of business development and marketing and so forth for like contractors, helping them out, creating a brand identity and developing, basically business and handling the sales process for them. So that sort of led me to what I'm currently doing with LegalShield is I started off using it for my own business as a member, and there's an opportunity because it's such a unique product, which we'll get into shortly, that we needed to expand out there in sales and marketing. My background led me to an opportunity, and this is where we are today.
Great. So maybe tell us, like, what is LegalShield?
So LegalShield is basically similar to, like, it's a prepaid legal service. A lot of people think of it as legal insurance, but it's not so much like legal insurance. It's an actual proactive product where we want people to use on a regular basis. So whether that's, if you're a business, for example, you need contracts reviewed, they're perfect. You submit the contract, they'll go through it item by item and also correct anything that needs to be corrected and so forth. Even if it's a personal issue where you have you got into a car accident or pulled over by a cop and you need something taken care of in an emergency situation, they have all these added services that you can use, whether it's a business or if you're in a family.
So basically, how does it work? Okay, so you sign up for the program, you pay on a monthly basis, I'm assuming, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it right there. It's like, think of it as a membership. So if you have like a gym membership, or more specifically, if you look at CAA memberships, I'm not sure if you have it, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners. I personally have a CAA membership, and we use it. If you get it, into an incident where your car breaks down or your battery breaks down. On the road, and you need a tow or a boost or battery replacement, whatever it is, that's similar to like what you would use with LegalShield, but you can use LegalShield before an incident happens. So you basically have a membership on a monthly basis. You'd be looking at, if you're just a family, as low as $26 per month for using the service. And it's basically, you carry it month to month. There's no long-term contracts. So if you want to cancel at any time, which there's no reason why you would, there's nothing that obligates you to, you're not into any lengthy contracts like a cell phone company or anything like that.
so $26. I mean, how do they do it so cheap?
Well, that's where I don't want to contradict myself here when I say it's not legal. It's not legal insurance or like an insurance product. It's actually a service you want to use. But in a sense, it acts like an insurance product when you have millions of people across the U.S. and Canada, and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of members. It basically spreads the cost out just like insurance. So they're able to, like, in every province or state that has Legal Shield, they have one major law firm that is very credible. In Ontario, we have one that's like 200 years old, been around forever. They get compensated in advance, prepaid, right? And because you have so many members, it really spreads the cost out, and that's why they're able to make it as low as the fee is right now. And they've been doing this business has been around for 40 years, 17 years specifically in Canada. So they've really worked this method out for many years, and they're constantly perfecting it with technology. But they have this system down pat, and it's a very unique model that they currently have right now. You kind of can think of it as like Medicare in the U.S., where they have like health insurance across the board in the U.S. You can sort of think of it like this. It's kind of a unique model that is very similar to what's out there, but I find a lot of people, when I present it to them, whether it's a business or person, they get it once you explain it to them, but it's very unknown. So that's why sometimes it seems a little confusing at first, because it's kind of a groundbreaking type of service.
Yeah, because I mean, naturally, what we're so used to is you get in trouble and then you go look for help after, right? And it ends up costing you a small fortune. Where this is your, I guess you're sort of being proactive in a sense that you're trying to make sure that you have available help at your beck and call when you need it, right? So,
Exactly. Like, when you're getting, you're going to a dentist or getting your car maintained, like all these things you do proactively to prevent your car from breaking down, or to get, cavities or any issues with your teeth. We always like to get it actively taken care of. So you think of it similar like that. So as a business, we can have like a contract template, and I'm sure, as a business owner and everybody listening who runs a business, it costs lawyers are like hundreds of dollars an hour, and if you get them to create a contract for you, but you need that contract to be redone for every unique situation. There's always different unique situations per contract depending on the business you're in. And you pay him, let's say, it takes him an hour, and you're paying him like $300 to $500 an hour, which is the average going rate in the area. You don't want, like, I know other entrepreneurs, including myself, I'm guilty of this, would edit it for case by case. You get one template, and we constantly edit it. What you can do as a Legal Shield member, and what I actively do on a regular basis, is I always submit any changes I make to the lawyer, and they get back to me within hours. Recently, the other day, I had a contract submitted, and they got back to me within less than an hour, half hour. And what they do is they go through the contract and they correct any item. So if you want to highlight the specific changes, they'll go through that and say, you didn't word it properly, or you need to correct this or correct that. How does that feel to, like, know that you got an actual lawyer going through this, fixing those errors, and giving you peace of mind that when you submit this or get it signed, to your, like, whether you're signing it or a client signing it, having these corrections made and not having to worry about it down the road, or think of not having it edited, and then a problem arises, and that correction the lawyer advised you to make that you didn't make ends up biting you. Then it ends up hurting you down the road, and can cost you thousands of dollars. So it can be it can be detrimental.
costly mistakes for sure. And now, is there any kind of limitations as to how many times you use them?
There are different just different services. So, like, if you're just getting a personal membership and you have a business issue, like, so I think we only review one contract document per year. But if you're under a business, if you have a home-based business, you can get what they call a home-based business rider supplement added, which gives you unlimited contract reviews. And there's also a business membership, which is a separate one, which is actually for a bigger business. Like, think of any business that has lawyers on retainer, like the big corporations. Think of this as your lawyer on retainer, instead of having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you're still paying a low fee for your business, and you get unlimited access for those business issues. They're not going to write the contract for you, but at the same time, if you have templates already in place, or you find something online, or you mock up your own, you submit this to them and they will review it. So and they will correct it and fix whatever needs to be done, just like any other any, like if you submit it to a lawyer, they're like, these are lawyers that are contacting you. They're, not just Legal Shield call center advisors. It's an actual local law firm. Like if you're in Ontario, where we are right now, it's an actual Ontario law firm that knows the actual laws in Ontario, or in licensed to practice law in Ontario. So you're getting like actual advice from a lawyer for like if you look at the whole membership as an individual per year, you're getting that for like the cost of an hour, if not even less than the cost per hour. So it's definitely a phenomenal service from a cost standpoint.
Okay, so going fix speeding tickets for example. Now, obviously the advice is there, but do they actually go fight it for you, or is there anything like that involved with it, or no?
So with the with the speeding ticket, they will look into it for you. Like they don't actually go to court on your behalf for any issues, but they will give you advice if you are going to court for whatever reason. But in a speeding ticket issue, usually those things don't end up in court in a lot of cases, and they're usually taken care of in advance, whether that's to get it off your record for insurance purposes. Now, obviously, I can't, say that, oh, every case you're going to get it written off, but because it all depends on what situation you're in. But if you've been wrongly done, then they can definitely look into it for you and take care of that matter for you. So there are specific limitations. I don't like, there's a laundry list of like things that, you can and cannot use it for, but for basic necessities, most of the things that they can use it for. But you can't look at it like it's the be all end all. So like if you're committing murder or you got a DUI, you know what I mean, like there's little limitations right there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So but for the premises of the call, listeners to call listening into this, like if you're in a business, there's a lot of like regular day-to-day issues, and this is coming from like, I'm talking about this as a member, not just a representative of Legal Shield. There's everyday issues that like little things that we always think that we would like the advice of a lawyer, and now that I have this membership, or the potential of having this membership for anybody listening out there, this is something that basically solves that problem for such a fractional cost of what it would be, and it can save you thousands of dollars. And if you don't mind, I can actually give you an example of a friend of mine who uses this service. He has a fleet of trucks out there in his business, and he got hit by courier service company, one of the big companies out there, and they were giving him the runaround when he called. When he called them up trying to get compensated for the damage they caused. So he was dealing with it on his own, and then within a day or two, he said, I'm just going to call my lawyer. He was a Legal Shield member, and they, on his behalf, submitted a letter to the actual company, to their legal department, because it was, like I said, it was a big, Fortune 100 company. And within, I think, a couple weeks, actually within right away, within a day, they agreed to compensate him. I think the amount was like $2,000 for the damages. They agreed to compensate him, and they got the compensation, I think, within 2 weeks. Now, if he didn't have this, or he had to pay, nobody's going to pay out of pocket for a lawyer for $2,000, because you're going to end up paying that and then some to have a lawyer look into it. In this case, he already was a member, didn't cost him anything, and he got a $2,000 check for damages that he would never have gotten if he had to deal with it on his own, because they were kept on giving him the runaround. And being a small guy, when you're dealing with a big Fortune 100 company that has a full legal staff on call all the time, they have the advantage for them now. With Legal Shield as a member, you have a law firm on your behalf working for you. So, these are things that we don't think about, but they're everyday items that happen all the time.
Yeah, they do. They do happen on a daily basis, especially because a lot of these companies are like self-insured too, right? they have a huge legal team behind them on staff, and they know what they can and can't do. And they knew that some small person, small business owner, is not going to go through the trouble, like you said, and spend $2,000 to get $2,000. Doesn't make sense, right? So absolutely, it made sense for that case, and just everyday advice. I mean, how many times do small business owners get into a position where just a phone call to a lawyer would straighten things out, or at least clear things up in a relatively quick way, right? So maybe you can get into some of the benefits as to why people should use the services of Legal Shield. Like maybe you can run through 5 or 7 benefits, however many you can have.
Yeah, so not to repeat myself too many times, I mentioned first, the proactive versus reactive. So unlike an insurance company, we want to like look at it like changing oil in our car or getting our teeth cleaned. So you don't want your car to break down, so we do regular oil changes and maintenance to the car. Go into the dentist to get it cleaned on a regular basis, so you prevent cavities or other further damage. Insurance, we always look at it as like we only have it there in case something wrong happens. Whereas with this, it's not insurance, but it basically, like I mentioned, where everybody's pulling their money together, they're getting a year worth of or unlimited worth of legal services for the cost of an hour of a lawyer's time. Whereas, in almost any situation, even if you have one issue, it's usually going to require more than an hour. So this is something that we want you to use regularly. Insurance companies don't encourage you. Nobody wants to use life insurance because the only way you could use it is if you die. Whereas with a service like this is the benefit thing of it. Like insurance, you have to basically buy premiums. Nobody wants to get into a car accident. With this service, we want you to actually not only have peace of mind that you have legal advice and legal help if something goes wrong. You can actually be proactive and do these things in advance. Whether it's like if you got a renovation going on, or you have a contract, a lengthy contract as a consumer for an expensive item, you can actually submit it to the law firm in advance before signing the contract. Forget about business. You could be a person buying, I don't know, a $10,000 entertainment system, and you can submit it to your like for cars. The best example, you're buying cars that are like 30,000, 50,000, $100,000, whatever it is. There's a lot of things that they put in those contracts that sometimes catch you off guard. And when you've got a big ticket expense, you want to submit this to the law firm to get it looked at. Like I know of an example, one of the managers in the company had their daughter buy a car, and she actually submitted the contract before signing it to the dealership. She submitted it to the law firm, and the law firm came back and basically said everything's fine, standard contract, but there's a couple items in here, like these administration fees. I can't remember the specifics, but it was an administration fee that they said is not necessary. You don't have to pay this, and I think it was like $2,000. One of those
Wow.
like a rust proofing. You know how they like put all these little fees in there.
Yeah.
So it ended up being a negotiation tactic because she went back to them and she ended up getting that $2,000 reduced.
Wow.
So here we are talking about a membership, $26 a month, ends up being depending on the package that you have, per year you're looking at less than $300 a year in some cases, and she just saved herself $2,000. Like, what's the return on investment on that?
For sure.
So there's definitely a lot of that's the proactive versus reactive, and there's also for the business, for example, I mentioned you got full business services. So you got the family aspect, which I give you an example of like the car situation in the business. We just talked about it. I had a friend of mine, had a vehicle, one of his vehicles out there on the road, got into an incident with where they were not at fault with another courier truck that ended up being, one of the top companies out there in the world that have a legal staff. So they don't think that he had a legal staff, which LegalShield was his basically retained legal staff on call, and he would have never gotten that compensation if he wasn't a member. So, there's all these different benefits, and things about it. Whereas people sometimes, when I first present it to them, I'm not sure what you thought, but a lot of people sometimes thinks it's just phone call advice. Like I said, you're calling into a customer service center who have legal knowledge, and they're going through, like you call a customer service center and they go through notes, like, can I do this? Can I do that? And they say, hold on a second, they're going through notes. It's not like that. You're dealing with an actual law firm, and it's like having like a law firm on call or on retainer. If you're a business, there's all these different benefits, to the service.
That's great. Now, there's something else like identity theft, correct?
Yeah, so that's another service, similar to Legal Shield, but for a different topic. So, identity theft, as everybody knows, with the cybersecurity issues that we're having in the world, and even before them, but now specifically with technology, it's becoming more prominent. So, a lot of misconceptions are that I'm already protected. Why do people think that? Well, banks offer some protection. Credit card companies offer some protection, but they don't realize that they only protect them for their bank accounts within that bank institution, or their credit cards within that credit card company. Or even if they have some additional services that they protect, it doesn't protect you for everything. So what if your identity gets stolen? Like, you got your social insurance number, your driver's license number, your passport number. They can, you can go renew your driver's license, and they say, well, you got 50 speeding tickets. 50 speeding tickets? I don't have any. Well, somebody steals your driver's license number. It's like stealing your identity, and they can put this on file. Now, good luck trying to call government of Ontario to. Get this taken care of. How are they going to believe you, right? They're going to think right away that you're giving them a story. So what happens with a lot of other identity companies out there, they give you like I mentioned, limited protection, but you can call them up and they'll give you some advice, some assistance, some forms, and some instructions on how to deal with it on your own. We've actually partnered with a big company called Kroll. So Kroll may not be familiar to everyone out there, but Kroll is a company that doesn't deal with individuals. They deal with big companies like, for example, Target. They had that breach this past year. They worked with them. So we're the only company, Legal Shield or ID Shield division of it, that has partnered with Kroll for the regular common folk to have access to their private investigators. Now, these are former FBI agent, police officers. So these people are certified and have a good understanding of how this works. If you have any questions, you can use it proactively about anything. Like if you have any concerns, you can call them up about your identity and they can answer it. But what if your identity is stolen? You give them a call, they take some information from you, and they take care of the rest. Now, it may take time to restore your identity, but this is an actual restoration service. No other company can say they do restoration. You call them up about an issue, they take some information, and they basically handle the rest of it on your own. So it's like calling a private investigator and saying I need something looked into, take care of it for me. Private investor comes back, gives you a report. Exactly how they do it. They take care of everything, give you the peace of mind that everything will be taken care of. And these guys are professionals. They know what they're doing. If your identity is stolen and you're responsible for taking care of it yourself, and somebody says, I'll give you some advice, but you got to do all the work, good luck, because it's not our expertise. And there's an emotional aspect into it. Whereas with a third party company that's expertise is in this, they take care of all that for you. And it's becoming not to be Debbie Downer here, but it's not a matter of if, it's always a matter of when something's going to happen to your identity in today's world. It's just an unfortunate aspect of technology, as great as it is, that we have, access to like all this information at our fingertips. There's also the downside of it as well. And unfortunately, identity theft is on the rise right now at such a huge rate that it's becoming more and more of a concern.
I agree with that totally. I know you went through some of the misconceptions. Is there any others that you can add?
The one I just want to reiterate one more time is that, this is not a service where you just call up just to get phone advice. They actually do things on your behalf, whether it's reviewing a contract or submitting a letter to get, for example, compensated for like some damages, like the car incident I mentioned. You got two different types of you got multiple different types of plans, but you got personal plans, like a family plan that covers your family, not just yourself and your wife, but also any dependents underneath you, like anybody under the age of 23 if they're in college, or anybody under the age of majority that's in the household is covered under these things. So I think we've pretty much nailed every one of them.
Good. That's great. Is there anything else you'd want to talk to us or convey to the listeners about it?
Just one more thing I probably like to mention is that when we came to Canada in 1999, there was the Upper Canada Law Society used the term Judicare. Now, I mentioned that you can look at it similar to what Medicare is in the U.S. They actually use the term Judicare, saying that this is a model that is a necessity in life, and it's like a disruptive model that you can say like Uber is with taxi service, or FedEx to fast speed 1 day delivery service was years and years ago. This is basically we look at it like in Canada we don't look at it the same way, but look at HMOs in the US. This is basically going to become almost like a mandatory. It's a unmandatory mandatory service, in the sense that we all need car insurance by law, but you don't want, even if it's not by law, you want to get car insurance. In the US, you don't need to have health insurance. Well, I know there's the Obamacare thing, but irregardless of that, you want to have health coverage, because God forbid something happens in the US, you need that kind of coverage. This basically is a revolutionary product that gives access to like law firms or legal service that you wouldn't otherwise have in any other circumstance. Think of it. I'll just say one last thing is. Think of it as something when I was saying with the HMOs and the car insurance thing. Years from now, this might become commonplace, where it's going to be an automatic. It's going to be built in on a yearly basis, where a LegalShield service is going to be considered like an HMO or a car insurance, because statistics have actually said that you're going to have a higher risk of needing legal service than you are going to be put in a hospital. This is actually a U.S. study by LegalShield saying that you're actually going to have a higher need to use legal service than a need in a hospital. Now, we have healthcare in Canada, so it's not as much of a concern, but the rate was, I think, 1 to 3 for legal, whereas it was 1 to 6, I think, for hospital care. So there's a higher need for a legal service than there is for any other type of service out there, but there isn't anything like this until LegalShield brought this out.
Well, I'm glad you came on and told us everything there is to know about Legal Shield. Scott, I mean, how can people contact you to get more information or to find out how they can join?
So they can actually give me a call directly. I can give out. Is it okay if I give out my contact information?
Absolutely, yes.
So my direct line is 647 or they can email me, email my direct business line, which is snewman, SNEW, at Scone Group. That's SKONE group.com.
Great. I will have your information on our VaughanAdviceGivers.com website as well, so that everybody can contact you directly that way. It was a pleasure talking to you about Legal Shield, Scott, and I'm glad you came on and opened our eyes a little bit more to how the legal sort of society we're getting into is going to be maybe troublesome in the future for us.
No, thank you. I appreciate being on there. It was a great experience.
Great. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right. If anyone has any questions or comments about the show or would like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at robert@vaughanadvicegivers.com.